Have you ever had the feeling that someone was watching you? Not the normal feeling. Not the kind that disappears after a few seconds. I mean the kind of feeling that crawls under your skin. The kind that follows you when you're alone. The kind that makes you turn around in the middle of the night, only to find absolutely nothing there. Most people ignore that feeling. They tell themselves it's anxiety, stress, imagination. But tonight, you're going to discover something disturbing. Something that has happened to thousands of people around the world. And after hearing this story, you may never look at the objects inside your room the same way again. Because the truth is, some cameras are hidden in places so unexpected that people stare directly at them every single day without realizing they're being watched. And what happened to one ordinary man will prove exactly why. His name was Daniel. A quiet man. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. He lived alone in a small apartment. Worked a normal job. Followed the same routine every day. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Until one night. At exactly 2:17 a.m. his phone suddenly lit up. No notification. No message. No call. Just a black screen that turned on by itself. Daniel stared at it from across the room. Then, the screen went dark again. He shrugged it off. Maybe a software glitch. Maybe nothing. But the next morning, he noticed something strange. His laptop camera light was on. Only for a second. Then it disappeared. Daniel wasn't recording anything. No applications were open. No video calls. Nothing. A tiny green light. Then darkness. Again, he ignored it. And that was his first mistake. Because over the next few weeks, the feeling became impossible to ignore. Every time he entered his apartment, it felt different. Like someone had been there. Not enough to prove anything. Just enough to make his stomach tighten. A chair slightly moved. A book at a different angle. A glass sitting somewhere he didn't remember placing it. Small things. Tiny things. The kind of things that make you question your own memory. Then came the message. An anonymous email. No name. No subject line. Just 6 words. I know what you do alone. Daniel laughed. At first, it had to be a prank. A joke. Someone trying to scare him. But then he noticed something attached to the email. A photograph. His smile disappeared instantly. Because the photograph showed him inside his apartment. Standing near his kitchen. The picture had been taken from inside the room. Not outside. Not through a window. Inside. Daniel's hand started shaking. He zoomed in. Looked closer. And what he discovered made his blood run cold. The angle of the photograph revealed something terrifying. Whoever took it had been watching him for a long time. The image wasn't random. The camera position was perfect. Strategic. Hidden. And that meant only one thing. Someone knew exactly where to place it. That night, Daniel searched every corner of the apartment. Behind paintings. Inside smoke detectors. Under tables. Behind shelves. Inside vents. Nothing. No cameras. No recording devices. Nothing suspicious. Hours passed. His frustration grew. Maybe he was losing his mind. Maybe the photograph was fake. Maybe someone edited it. Maybe. But deep down, he knew the truth. Someone was watching. The question was, from where? 3 nights later, the answer arrived. And it was hidden in something he used every single day. Something sitting only a few feet away from him. Something nobody would ever suspect. Something so ordinary that even now, there is a chance you have one near you. And when Daniel finally discovered it, he wished he never had. Because what he found wasn't just a camera. It was proof that the watcher had been collecting footage for months. Months. Every movement. Every conversation. Every private moment. Recorded. Stored. Observed. And the worst part? The camera wasn't originally designed to spy on anyone. Someone had modified it. Transformed it. Turned an innocent household object into a silent observer. An eye that never blinked. An eye that never slept. An eye that watched everything. But Daniel wasn't the only victim. Not even close. As investigators would later discover, cases like this were appearing everywhere. Hotels. Apartments. Vacation rentals. Offices. Even bedrooms. And the places where cameras were found became more shocking every year. Inside alarm clocks. Inside power adapters. Inside wall chargers. Inside air purifiers. Inside decorative lamps. Inside digital frames. Inside devices that people touched every day. Objects nobody questioned. Objects nobody examined. Objects that blended perfectly into normal life. And that is exactly what made them dangerous. Because the most effective hiding place isn't the darkest corner. It's the place nobody thinks to look. And what happened next to Daniel would prove that in the most terrifying way imaginable. At 3:03 a.m., his apartment camera captured something nobody expected. Something that changed the entire case forever. Because for the first time, the watcher made a mistake. The watcher made a mistake. A tiny mistake. So small that most people would never have noticed it. But mistakes have a strange way of exposing secrets. Especially secrets that were never meant to be discovered. Daniel sat frozen in front of his laptop. The anonymous footage was playing again. Frame by frame. Second by second. He had watched it dozens of times. Searching for anything unusual. Anything that could explain who was behind it. Then suddenly, he saw it. A reflection. Barely visible. Only appearing for less than a second. A distorted shape reflected in the glass of a picture frame hanging on the wall. At first, it looked meaningless. But Daniel paused the video, zoomed in, enhanced the image, and his heart nearly stopped. Because standing in the reflection was a person. A real person. Watching him. Not through a screen. Not remotely. Physically. Inside the apartment. Daniel replayed the footage again. And again. And again. The figure remained there. Motionless. Almost blending into the darkness. Whoever it was had been standing only a few feet away from him. Close enough to touch him. Close enough to hear him breathing. And Daniel had never noticed. For several minutes he couldn't move. His mind refused to accept what his eyes were seeing. Because if the footage was real, then the watcher wasn't just spying. The watcher had entered his apartment. Multiple times. The realization hit him like a truck. Every strange feeling. Every moved object. Every unexplained detail. Every moment he felt someone was there. They weren't imagination. They were warnings. Warnings he had ignored. That night Daniel locked every door. Checked every window. Pulled every curtain shut. Then he sat awake until sunrise. Waiting. Listening. Watching. Nothing happened. No sounds. No movement. No sign of anyone. But the silence felt wrong. Too perfect. Too calm. As if something was waiting. Watching. Studying. The next day he contacted a cybersecurity specialist. A man named Marcus. Marcus spent years investigating surveillance cases. Most turned out to be simple misunderstandings. But after reviewing Daniel's evidence, Marcus became unusually quiet. Then he asked a question. "Are you absolutely certain you live alone?" Daniel nodded. Marcus looked at him. Then said something Daniel would never forget. "Because whoever installed this camera knows your routines better than you do." The room fell silent. Marcus explained what he meant. The recordings showed impossible accuracy. The camera always activated at perfect moments. Private conversations. Important phone calls. Sensitive information. Personal habits. The timing was too precise. Someone knew exactly when to record. Exactly when to watch. Exactly when Daniel would be vulnerable. That level of knowledge didn't happen by accident. It came from observation. Weeks. Months. Possibly years of observation. Then Marcus discovered something even worse. The camera wasn't transmitting footage continuously. It only activated when motion occurred. That meant the device could remain hidden for months without attracting attention. Almost impossible to detect. A predator disguised as an ordinary object. Waiting silently. Recording selectively. Leaving almost no evidence behind. Marcus searched deeper. Tracing digital signals. Examining wireless activity. Checking every electronic device. Hours passed. Then suddenly, he found a signal. Weak. Intermittent. But real. A hidden transmission. Daniel stared at the screen, his pulse racing. The signal originated from inside the apartment. The camera was still there. Still active. Still watching. Marcus began isolating the source. Room by room. Device by device. The signal grew stronger. Then weaker. Then stronger again. They followed it into the living room. Then toward a bookshelf. Then toward a lamp. But the lamp wasn't the source. Neither was the bookshelf. The signal kept shifting. Almost as if it were moving. Daniel felt sick. What if the device wasn't fixed? What if it could be relocated? What if someone had recently returned? Marcus continued scanning. The signal suddenly spiked. Maximum strength. Both men froze. The source was directly in front of them. An ordinary digital clock. Cheap. Common. Forgettable. The kind sold everywhere. The kind nobody pays attention to. Daniel stared at it. The clock had sat there for nearly 2 years. Every single day. Every single night. Always present. Always silent. Always watching. Marcus carefully opened the casing. And there it was. A lens. Smaller than a pencil eraser. Almost invisible. Perfectly concealed. Daniel's stomach twisted. Months of recordings. Months of surveillance. Months of privacy destroyed. All hidden behind a harmless display showing the time. But the nightmare wasn't over. Because when Marcus examined the internal storage, he discovered something impossible. Someone had accessed the device only 4 days earlier. 4 days. Meaning the watcher had recently returned. Recently entered. Recently stood somewhere inside the apartment. Possibly while Daniel was asleep. The thought was unbearable. Daniel felt the walls closing in around him. His apartment no longer felt like home. It felt like a trap. Every object became suspicious. Every shadow looked threatening. Every creak sounded intentional. Then Marcus uncovered the most terrifying detail yet. The recordings weren't the only thing stored inside. There was also a folder. Encrypted. Protected. Hidden. Someone clearly didn't want it found. Marcus worked for hours. Breaking through layers of security. Eventually, the folder opened. And what appeared on the screen made both men speechless. Hundreds of names. Hundreds. Each attached to dates. Addresses. Locations. Notes. Photographs. Daniel wasn't the only target. He was one entry in a much larger collection. The realization was horrifying. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a personal obsession. This was something bigger. Far bigger. Someone was building a library of people. Watching them. Studying them. Documenting their lives. And nobody knew why. Then Marcus noticed one final file. A video. Unlabeled. No timestamp. No description. Nothing. Just a black thumbnail. He clicked it. The footage began. For several seconds nothing appeared. Only darkness. Static. Silence. Then a voice emerged. Calm. Cold. Controlled. A voice neither man recognized. The voice spoke only one sentence. A sentence so disturbing that Daniel would remember it for the rest of his life. It said, "He finally knows." Then the screen went black. No explanation. No clues. Nothing. Just those 3 words. He finally knows. Marcus immediately checked the upload date. And his face turned pale. Because the file had been created only 27 minutes earlier. 27 minutes. While they were sitting inside the apartment. While they were investigating. While they believed they were alone. Someone had uploaded the message in real time. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Someone was watching them. Right now. And somewhere beyond the walls. Beyond the windows. Beyond the darkness. The watcher had already realized their secret was no longer hidden. And what happened next would turn this terrifying mystery into something far more dangerous than either of them imagined. Someone was watching them right now. The realization hung in the air like poison. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat. Marcus immediately disconnected the hidden camera. Then he unplugged the clock completely. The room fell silent. But somehow, the silence felt even worse. Because if someone had uploaded that message only 27 minutes earlier, then there had to be another device. Another camera. Another way to watch. Marcus stood up instantly. His eyes scanning every corner of the apartment. Every shelf. Every wall. Every object. Nothing looked unusual. And that was exactly what terrified him. The best hiding places never look unusual. The best hiding places look ordinary. For the next 3 hours they searched everything. Absolutely everything. Books. Furniture. Kitchen appliances. Wall sockets. Smoke detectors. Light fixtures. Even decorative items. Nothing. No second camera. No hidden transmitter. No explanation. But Marcus wasn't convinced. Someone had seen them. That much was obvious. The question was how. Then Daniel remembered something. A strange event from several months earlier. A delivery. A package he never ordered. At the time he assumed it was sent to the wrong address. Nothing special. Nothing memorable. Except for one detail. The package contained a small smart speaker. Brand new. Still sealed. Daniel had contacted customer support. Nobody claimed it. Eventually he kept it. The speaker still sat on a shelf near the television. Marcus slowly turned toward it. Neither man said a word. The room suddenly felt colder. Because smart devices had cameras sometimes. Microphones. Wireless connections. Internet access. Marcus picked it up carefully. Examined the casing. Nothing unusual. At least at first. Then he noticed a tiny scratch near the bottom. A scratch that shouldn't have been there. He removed the outer cover. And immediately froze. Someone had modified the hardware. Professional modifications. Clean. Precise. Hidden. Inside the speaker was another miniature camera. And another microphone. Daniel felt physically ill. Not one surveillance device. 2. Maybe more. The apartment had become a giant observation room. Every conversation. Every secret. Every private moment. Captured. Stored. Collected. But then Marcus discovered something even more disturbing. The camera wasn't currently transmitting. It had gone offline. Exactly 30 minutes ago. The same time the mysterious message appeared. Someone had shut it down remotely. Almost as if they knew it was about to be found. Which meant the watcher wasn't just observing. The watcher was adapting. Responding. Thinking. Reacting. This wasn't passive surveillance anymore. This was a game. And the other player already knew every move. That night Daniel refused to stay in the apartment. He checked into a hotel across town. Marcus advised him not to tell anyone where he was going. Not friends. Not coworkers. No one. The fewer people who knew, the safer he would be. For the first time in weeks Daniel felt a small sense of relief. Maybe the nightmare was finally ending. Maybe distance would break whatever connection existed. Maybe the watcher would disappear. But at 11:42 p.m. his phone vibrated. One message. Unknown number. No profile picture. No name. Just a single photograph. Daniel opened it. And instantly felt his blood turn to ice. The picture showed the entrance of his hotel. Taken only minutes earlier. Below the image were 6 words. You picked the wrong hotel. Daniel dropped the phone. His entire body shaking. The watcher knew where he was. Despite telling no one. Despite leaving secretly. Despite taking precautions. The watcher knew. And that meant something far worse than hidden cameras. It meant information was leaking from somewhere else. Somewhere he hadn't considered. Marcus arrived within an hour. After reviewing the message he reached a terrifying conclusion. The problem wasn't just inside the apartment. The problem might be inside Daniel's digital life. Phone. Laptop. Accounts. Applications. Everything. Someone could have been monitoring him for far longer than he realized. The cameras may have only been part of the operation. A visible piece of a much larger puzzle. The next morning they began investigating Daniel's devices. And what they found shocked them. Several applications on his phone weren't legitimate. They looked normal. Harmless. Useful. But hidden inside their code were permissions no ordinary app should possess. Location tracking. Microphone access. Background recording. Camera control. Data collection. The apps had been quietly gathering information for months. Possibly longer. Daniel remembered downloading them after seeing online advertisements. Simple tools. Nothing suspicious. At least that's what he thought. But now every assumption felt dangerous. Every convenience felt like a potential trap. Marcus removed the software immediately. Changed passwords. Secured accounts. Rebuilt security settings from scratch. Finally, for the first time, the digital trail went cold. No messages. No photographs. No warnings. Nothing. Days passed. Then weeks. Silence. Complete silence. Daniel slowly began rebuilding his life. The fear started fading. Sleep returned. Normal routines returned. The nightmare appeared finished. Until one rainy evening. A package arrived. No sender. No return address. No markings. Just Daniel's name. He stared at it for several minutes. Unsure whether to open it. Eventually curiosity won. Inside was a small black notebook. Nothing else. No explanation. No letter. Just a notebook. Daniel opened the first page. And instantly regretted it. Every page contained observations. Detailed observations. About him. The way he walked. The food he ordered. The times he left home. The times he returned. Conversations. Habits. Thoughts he believed nobody knew. The entries stretched back years. Years. Not months. Years. Someone had been documenting his life for an incredibly long time. Then he reached the final page. Unlike the others. It contained only one sentence. Written in neat handwriting. A sentence that sent a chill through his entire body. It said, "The cameras were never the important part." Daniel stared at those words. Again. And again. And again. The cameras were never the important part. What did that mean? The answer arrived days later. When investigators finally uncovered the truth. The surveillance devices had never been the primary objective. They were tools. Methods. A way to collect information. A way to understand behavior. Predict routines. Study reactions. The real goal wasn't watching. The real goal was control. Because the more someone knows about you, the easier it becomes to influence you. To manipulate decisions. To predict actions. To shape outcomes. And suddenly Daniel understood. The greatest threat wasn't the hidden camera. It wasn't the microphone. It wasn't even the anonymous messages. The greatest threat was believing that privacy can be ignored. That security doesn't matter. That it happens only to other people. Because that belief creates the perfect opportunity. The perfect opening. The perfect target. And that is exactly why stories like Daniel's continue to happen. Not because technology is evil. Not because cameras are magical. but because people underestimate how valuable their information truly is. The truth is unsettling. Most surveillance doesn't begin with sophisticated equipment. It begins with trust. Trust placed in the wrong object, the wrong device, the wrong application, the wrong person. And once that trust is broken, the damage can spread quietly for years. So before you dismiss strange signs, before you ignore unusual activity, before you assume nothing could happen to you, remember Daniel. Remember the clock. Remember the speaker. Remember the message that arrived 27 minutes after the investigation began. And most importantly, remember the sentence hidden inside that black notebook. The cameras were never the important part. Because somewhere tonight, someone will discover a hidden device. Someone will realize they've been observed. Someone will uncover a secret that changes everything. And when they do, they'll learn the same lesson Daniel learned. The eye behind the camera is frightening. But the person collecting the information is often far more dangerous. So take one final look around your room. At the objects you've stopped noticing. The objects you trust without question. The objects sitting silently in the darkness. Because sometimes, the thing watching isn't what you expect. And sometimes, the most shocking hiding place is the one you've looked at every single day.